I hope you are doing great. As a part of this lecture, we'll try to understand how do we work with the nulls. When you are working with a huge amount of data, in the previous lecture, we have seen how do we work with the Boolean values, how do we work with the numerical values, how do we work with the strings, dates and timestamps. When you are working with a huge amount of data tend to have null values as well. If you are not knowing how to deal with the null values, so then you may end up cleaning up the data, your analysis may not be right and all those things. That is the reason tackling the null values as a part of your data analysis would be very important. Let us see how do we do that. One of the very important practice in the Spark is to always use nulls to represent the missing or empty data. If you just leave the missing data, then Spark wouldn't work well. If you really see, we have seen the logical optimization and also physical optimization, all those things. In order to do that, we need to ensure that you have taken care of the null values. Then only Spark will be able to optimize well. The way we handle the null values in Spark is by using a .NA subpackage. Whenever we are trying to handle the null values, the .NA package comes into picture. How do we work with the null values? Two simple things. They are either explicitly drop the null values or fill them with the value which you want. Drop the null values, drop them, or fill them with any values which you really want to have as a part of your data. One of those two things can be done. So to do that, we do have different functions. They are coalesce, and all of these are SQL functions. We have if null, null if, NVL, NVL2, and we have drop, we have fill, and also we have replace. As I said, at a high level, either you can drop the null values or fill the null values with some value. To accomplish all of that, we have all these functions. We'll see them one by one. The first thing is coalesce. What coalesce does? Assuming that you have a data frame, in your data frame, you have a null values. Coalesce tries to find the first non-null value from a set of columns. So if you have a data frame, in that if you want to get the first non-null value, you can use a coalesce function. As usual, it's a function which we need to import. The way we use it is, you can give the name of the data frame. This is the name of the data frame. Use the select function, use the coalesce function. Provide the column on which you are operating. This is the column. If you want to give the one more column, you can give that. This is the second column, and you can go ahead and show. This is how you can use the coalesce function, which will give us the first non-null value in a set of columns. Now that we understood the coalesce, there are some SQL functions which we will be seeing as a part of Spark SQL, but we are trying to introduce them to you as a part of this lecture because we are dealing with the null values. If null is one of the SQL function which allows us to select the second value with the first value is null, the second value, and null if returns null if the two values are equal, or else returns the second if they are not. NVL returns the second value if the first is null. NVL2 will return the second value if the first is not null. We are trying to see all these functions as a part of our Spark SQL. As I said, one of the simplest thing what we can do is dropping the null values if they are part of your data frame. What drop does is, it removes the rows that contains the null values. Either the default is to drop any row in which any value is null. You may be wondering, oh, if I have a null values in particular column, we may have a value in other columns. Are we not losing the data? Yes, we will be, but it depends on the project. If you are okay to lose the data of other columns, even though some of the columns are null values, then you can go ahead and use the drop. But if you are not okay to lose the data of other columns while one of the column is null, then you shouldn't be using the drop, because drop drops all the values in a record even though one of the value is null value. So use the drop with caution. Drop removes rows that contain null values. The next one is fill function, where you don't want to lose the data. You want to replace the null values with the appropriate value depending upon your project. That is when you should be using the fill. Fill can be used in multiple ways. One of the ways, by using a fill, you can fill all the null values in a data frame. Assuming that you have a data frame with 3 columns. Column 1, column 2, column 3. It doesn't matter where the null value is. What it does is, assume that null value is here and null value is here. It will fill all the null values in all the columns. That is one usage. But sometimes that may not be the case. Let us say you have some 3 columns. So one of the column would be name, the second column would be company, and the third column would be salary. So it doesn't make sense for me to fill the same value in all the 3 columns, right? In that case, what we can do is we can go ahead and use a particular fill value for a particular column. That also can be done. Next way is, if you want to fill your null values with the integers, that also we can do by using fill. Specify the integer you want to fill and provide the integer types. It can be integer type, it can be double type. Next one important thing is, in addition to replacing the null values, like we did the drop or fill, there are some flexible options. They are, one is replace all values in a certain column according to their current value. You can also do this. You can see all these things as a part of our practical. Thank you.